Chair, Commissioners, this morning we call Mr. Raul Aaron. Sir, will you go into the witness box? Do you prefer to swear or affirm?
Swear.
By which holy book?
The Quran.
Mr. Raul Aaron, do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sir, would you state your name?
Raul Aaron,
And what is your address?
3226 Haven Place, South Randall Park, Georgetown.
What do you do for a living?
I am the Community Liaison Officer for the Ministry of Housing and Water, Central Housing and Planning Department.
Okay, you are dropping your voice a little bit towards the end of your sentences. So I want you to keep that in mind as you continue to speak, all right? Because
Yes, ma'am.
we want to make sure what you say is properly audible and properly recorded.
I understand.
Okay? Now, you gave a statement in this matter,
Yes, ma'am.
and did you sign that statement?
I did.
And did you place your initials on that statement?
Yes, I did.
If you see it again, will you be able to recognize your statement?
Yes, I will.
I'm going to ask that a document be shown to you. You now have a document in your hand. Can you look at it and tell us whether that is the statement of which you just spoke?
Yes, this is
And
it.
could you just hold up the page with the signature so that the commissioners may see? Thank you. I'm asking that this be admitted as RA1, and I have 3 copies for the commissioners.
The statement is tendered as RE1.
Where are your markings on this? So, are you familiar with the name of a party called United Republican Party?
I am.
And does it go by the acronym URP?
Yes, ma'am.
In 2020, were you a member of that party?
Yes, I was.
And what position did you hold in it?
General Secretary.
Did your party contest the March 2020 general and regional elections in Guyana?
Yes, we did.
Did your party contest in all 10 districts?
Yes, we contested in all 10 of the administrative district for the general election and 9 in the regional election.
And in order to contest in the districts, what was your party required to do?
We were required to obtain a list of nominees from candidates from every district.
And were you required to file that?
We were required to file that with the on nomination day.
Now, on the day when you were supposed to file your lists, Did you have any kind of setback at all?
Yes, we had some setbacks. Nomination day, we were supposed to have submitted our list at the Humaniana. And because of the amount of political parties that were contested, we decided that we would set up a shift system to ensure that our party would be the first party that would submit their list.
And is it, if you are first to submit the list, is there a greater likelihood that your candidates will be accepted?
Correct.
But as it happened, what occurred with respect to URP?
On nomination day, ourselves with other political parties who were using the same strategy in relations to trying to get to the head of the nomination submission, we were barred from submitting our nominees, and we were told that AFC, APNU AFC, would be presenting their list first.
Who told you that?
We were told this by the security officers and other representatives of GCOM.
When you say GCOM, whom do you refer to?
The staff of GCOM, they came out at the Humaniana and they stated that we would have to go back because APNU would be submitting their list first.
And by GCOM you mean Guyana Election Commission?
Guyana Elections Commission.
And as a result of that, were you able to contest in all of the regional districts?
Because of this, we were not able to contest in all of the regional districts. One was omitted because we did not have the resources to go back in and to clarify those names that were omitted because they were submitted by other political parties.
As generals, sorry?
I'm not sure that I understand that clearly. Because you were pushed back, when you got in, you were able to contest in 9 districts, but not one particular one.
Right.
And you say the explanation for that is what?
The list that we submitted, if that list, any one name on that list appears on another party list, it would not be accepted. You would have to go back to that region and get someone else to endorse you. We did not have the resource to go back in there.
But that could have been applicable to any region where you had a duplication.
Yes.
So I don't understand.
We were able to reach other regions, like Region 4, Region 6, Region 3, Region 5. If there was a duplication, we could have easily accessed that area and get another person to sign. But Region 8 in particular, we were not able to get to that region, so we can have another secretary.
Are you saying to us that you had a hiccup because a person you trusted to be a candidate on your list actually lent his name to another party?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, did you, as General Secretary of URP, were you given authority by GCOM to visit all polling stations?
Yes, I was.
And in what form was that authority?
It was given in form of a badge that identified you. We had different classes of badge. Some persons were only authorized to visit some specific areas, some specific regions, while others, like myself, we were authorized to visit every district and every area and every region.
And at all material times from March the 2nd, 2020, when you were carrying out your responsibilities as General Secretary of the URP, did you wear your badge?
Yes, I did.
Did you visit polling stations on March 2nd, 2020, did you visit polling stations in Region 4?
Yes, I did visit polling stations in Region 4.
And did you encounter any difficulties?
Yes. I encountered difficulties in the Sophia area and also in the Diamond area, where I was debarred from visiting
Sophia
some.
and Diamond areas. You were debarred by whom?
Mostly APNU supporters who claim that once you're representing another political party, then you would not be able to enter. And it was mostly by their supporters.
Okay. And were you debarred by the police in any instance?
Yes, on one instance, we were debarred by the police, who were instructed by the representatives there. I'm not too sure if they were GCOM representatives, but they were saying that we would not be allowed to enter.
Sorry.
Did you hear those instructions yourself?
Yes, I did.
Can you remember which of the two regions you have identified, which of the two polling stations you've identified those instructions were given at?
At Sophia,
Okay.
in two areas in Sophia.
And did you know who were the GCOM employees giving these instructions?
No, I don't know them personally. I can't remember their names.
How do you know they were GCOM employees?
They had badges of GCOM. All they said that we had no representatives there, we would not be allowed to enter.
Well, as a result of that, did your party make any kind of official complaint?
Yes, we made an official complaint to the REO, Mr. Mingo, at the Ashman's building.
When you say RO, what do you mean?
The returning officer?
Now, did you have a problem with badges?
Yes,
accreditation badges?
we had a problem with accreditation badges in that the required amount of badges were not given to our party for the amount of regions that we were contesting.
They were not given by whom?
By the returning officer, who said that they should use their regular badges that they had. We were supposed to have been given badges in categories
Yes.
that would permit us to enter certain areas. And we did not receive enough of those badges that give us unilateral rights and authority to enter those areas.
Now, did the returning officer give you an explanation as to why he was not giving you the badges you were entitled to as a contesting party in the election?
He said that we should ask our agents to return to the various polling stations that they were being debarred from and use the subsidiary badges that they were given.
Yes, but he didn't give you a reason as to why he wasn't giving you the proper badges in the first place?
No, he never gave us a reason, but in my opinion, I think...
no, don't give us your opinion.
Okay.
He
No,
simply
he did not.
gave you
He did
no
not give it
reason.
no reason. He just asked us to return and use the badges that we were issued with.
Now, on election day, did you go around to the polling stations in Region 4 after the close of polls?
Yes.
And did you make any observations?
Yes, I observed that because the URP were not able to field officers in all of the polling stations, it means that we would not have been given the statement of polls in the station. So we were going around and retrieving statement of polls that were posted outside of the polling stations. And those statement of polls outside the stations were being removed.
By whom?
They were removed by supporters of other political parties, mainly APNU supporters.
And you are saying that, why? Why are you saying that? Did you see that?
I saw that.
Did someone tell you
Oh
that?
no, I saw them being removed by those supporters, and we were trying to get copies of them because we had our own tabulation system that we were going to work with.
Sure.
Mr. Aaron,
Yes, sir.
one of the things that I would like to be on guard against is loose talk. You saw people removing the statements of poll.
Yep.
How can you say they were supporters of any political party? APNU, AFC, PPP. How do you know that?
Because they're persons that I know, and I know that they were supporting those parties, but they had no badges or anything on.
You know that these people were supporters of a party?
Yep.
Yep. No.
Yes, sir.
That's not an acceptable answer. A voter can change their support at the last minute. You agree?
I agree.
Good. So it's a little dangerous to refer to somebody as a supporter of a party. Give me an example of a polling station where you saw that happen.
At the Sophia polling station, one of the schools in Sophia.
Yeah. You said you live in South Rhinebeck,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
and you know political party supporters in Sophia.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Now, so your party had campaigned in all districts, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, you said you saw, but this is the part I want to get back to. You said you noticed statements of polls being removed from outside polling stations.
Yes, ma'am.
Were those polling stations Diamond and Buxton?
Yes.
And when you saw this happening, was any GCOM employee around?
No. No GCOM employee were around.
After the close of polls, did you and other party agents go to Ashman's building?
Yes.
And did you get there at about 8 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
One moment. You showed us a statement that you signed earlier. It's been put in evidence.
Yes.
Can you be shown the statement, please?
So do you have a copy of your statement with you?
No.
Perhaps you can have some assistance? Is there a clerk available to assist?
Can Ms. Vera perhaps take it to him? Ask Ms. Vera if she can just hand it to him, please.
Would you be good enough to show this to the witness, please?
Can you turn to page 2, paragraph 8? The last sentence. It doesn't say, it doesn't read, I know them to be supporters of APNU AFC. It says, I understood them to be. So somehow you came by some information. Would that be correct, based on what you say there?
Correct.
Thank you. Give him a seat.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Aaron. So let's get to the point where you get to Ashman's building at about 8 that night. Did you go to any particular room or area in that building?
Yes, there was an open space that was designated for political parties who had contested the elections.
Sure. And was there a space in that area for your party?
No, there was not a designated area for us, and we inquired.
So where did you end up waiting?
We
that
were
night?
just waiting in the area together with the observers.
Sure. And how did you know that these people you were waiting with were observers?
They had on their identification badges.
Can you now recall which observers were there?
They were the European Union, and then they were local observers.
As General Secretary of the party, did you know the Chief Election Officer?
Yes,
And what can you tell us what his name is or was?
Mr. Keith Lowenfield.
And did you see Mr. Lowenfield at Ashman's building that evening?
Yes,
Did he assist you in getting a space?
Yes, he did.
Before you had spoken to Mr. Lowenfield, had you approached any other GCOM official so that your party could participate in the verification process?
Yes, we did. And they told us to sit in the area
Okay.
in front.
Who did you approach?
One of the clerks, and then he referred us to Mr. Mingo.
So you spoke to Mr. Mingo?
Yes,
And you apprised him of the difficulty your party had?
correct.
And what was his response?
His response was that you would have to use that designated area.
Sure. At about, well, I would have to say at about 2 a.m. the following morning, did anything occur?
The tabulation was brought to a halt
By whom?
by Mr. Mingo.
I take it you were still there in the building.
Yes, I was.
And before 2 a.m. sorry,
You say, Mr. Aaron, that the tabulation was brought to a halt by Mr. Mingo.
Yes, sir.
Did he say something?
Yes,
What did he say?
he said that we will stop the tabulation at this time and we will resume the next day.
Thank you.
prior to 2 a.m., what had been happening in the tabulation room?
Prior to 2 a.m., the tabulation was being done, and we were having some challenges seeing the screen that it was being presented on.
You mean when you say we, you refer to
Myself
your party?
and other political parties.
Okay. No, well, don't tell us about other political parties, all right? Speak about your personal experience.
Yes.
What you did, heard, saw.
Okay.
Okay? So, before that time, the verification process had been going on, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you had some difficulties seeing the screen that was being used.
Yes. And
Now, tell me something. The verification process, did it include comparison of the statements of polls which parties had with what GCOM was calling out?
yes, ma'am.
Now, you said you had some difficulty seeing the screen. Did you bring this to the attention of any GCOM employee?
Yes, I brought it to the attention of Mr. Mingo.
What did you say to him?
I said that the screens were too small. We were not seeing the tabulations correctly.
And what did... Sorry, I think the chairman has a question.
Mr. Aaron, the complaint about the screen, you were complaining about the size of the screen?
The size, in terms of the fonts.
The fonts, okay. And what did he say in response to you?
He said that is what we were provided with, and that is what we had to use.
Thank you.
Now, you told us that Mr. Mengo said that the verification exercise was going to stop at about 2 a.m. or words to that effect.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, what was your response to that?
We were concerned because the expediency in which the results would have been significantly delayed.
Sure. So, tell me about I, not we, unless you identify who the other persons are.
Okay, myself and my other party representatives.
Okay. You all were concerned. Did you express your concern to anyone?
We expressed it, and we expressed it profusely, stating that we were surprised that GCOM had not acquired enough human resource capabilities based on the amount of money that was given to fund the elections.
Who did you express?
I expressed
Your
that directly.
concerns to?
I expressed that to Mr. Mingo.
What did Mr. Mingo say, if anything?
He said that his staff were tired and we would have to return the following day.
Did you ask him if he had backup staff?
We did.
What was his reply?
No, they don't. And we would have to return the next day. The staff had to rest.
Now, how many members of staff did he have in the room at that time?
I can't remember exactly, but there were staff posted at every portfolio, so to speak, in terms of those who were calling out and those who were tabulating.
Okay, at that point, did you or your party attempt to contact the CEO?
Yes, we did.
By what means?
We were asking the staff there if we can see the CEO, and we actually protested too.
You asked the GCOM staff there?
Yep.
When
Yes,
you
ma'am.
When you say the GCOM staff, does that include Mr. Mingo?
It includes Mr. Mingo.
When you asked Mr. Mingo to see the CEO, what did you say to Mr. Mingo?
We were uncomfortable with the time
What did you say?
we said that we were uncomfortable with the timing and the stopping of the count, and we wanted to continue. And if he could not make a decision, we want someone in authority that could have made a decision.
And did you specifically ask to see the CEO then?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did the returning officer say to that request,
He
in
was-
reply to that request?
He was not available.
He told you that
He
the
told
CEO...
me the CEO, Mr. Keith Lowenfield, was not available.
So, having had the process stopped, did you then leave Ashman's building?
Yes, we left Ashman's building, myself and my party supporters.
And did you return on the following day?
Yes, returned later that day because it was already the 3rd.
Oh yes, it was already 2 in the morning, yes. So you returned later that day. Can you recall what time?
8 o'clock.
And can you tell us what, if anything, was happening? Was the verification process going?
No, we were just waiting around for it to get started.
And when you say we, to whom do you refer?
Members of the United Republican Party and other political parties that were there.
And apart from party representatives, did you see any other persons there?
There were observers there.
How did you know they were observers?
They were identified and they had observers written at the back of their jackets.
Okay. When you say they were identified, what do you mean by badges?
No, they had the observer actually written on their jackets.
Did you know any of them?
Yes, I know some from the European Union because we had met with them prior to the elections.
During the course of that morning, did you see the returning officer, Mr. Mingo?
Yes, I saw him.
Where?
He was in the Ashman's building, in the area where the tabulation was being done.
And was Mr. Mingo doing anything, or did he do anything?
No, not that morning. We were just trying to get the count started.
And when you say we were just trying to get the count started, who is the we?
Myself and members of my political party, along with other political parties that were there.
And how were you doing this? What
We
were
were-
you doing or saying to try to get the count started?
We were asking them when are we going to resume the count because time is going and time is of the essence.
And you were asking whom?
Mr. Mingo in particular.
And what did he say?
They will resume very shortly. They're waiting on their staff to take up their positions.
Did he give you a time frame at all?
No, he did not.
Now, I want to take you to, just 1 second, please. Now, during the course of that day, could you tell us whether any verification took place?
Yes, verification commenced.
At about what time?
Could have been closer to 11 o'clock.
And tell us exactly what happened.
The verification process began, and we then asked for tables because we were uncomfortable. We were just sitting on chairs. So we wanted tables so we can, put our SOPs on so that we can mark them off correctly.
Okay. So you asked GCOM staff for tables so that you could do your work, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you provided with those?
We were provided with those tables after some protest and representation from the PPP party, in particular Mr. Barrett that deal.
And after you all received tables, did the verification process commence?
It did.
And tell me, what did it entail?
It entailed the results being called out by the GCOM representative and posted, and we verifying it with the statement of polls that we had.
Now, as far as you can tell, what was the GCOM employee calling from at that point?
Statement of polls.
And when you say posted where?
It was posted on, they were calling, and it was posted on the screens that were displayed.
Were these the same screens from before?
Yes, they were the same small screens.
And were you able to now see the numbers?
No, we weren't, and we protested again.
Did you protest?
Yes, I did.
To whom?
Mr. Mingo, and then to Mr. Lowenfield.
Now, when you say you protested to Mr. Mingo, what did you say to him?
We said that the screens were too small. We were still not being able to verify the numbers clearly, and we would like them to be much larger.
And did Mr. Mingo reply to you?
He said that is what we would have had to work with, and we asked to see the chief election officer.
And on this occasion, did you get to see the chief elections officer?
Yes, we did. I did. Mm-hmm.
And did you speak to the chief elections officer?
Yes, we expressed our concern.
What did you say to him?
We said that the screens were too small, and we were not seeing the numbers clearly.
And what did Mr. Lowenfield say?
They will fix it.
Did GCOM fix it?
GCOM did fix it.
GCOM, sorry?
Yes, Mr. Lowenfield fixed it, and he gave us larger screens.
And what about the font?
The fonts were also enlarged.
Enlarged?
Yes.
So, did the verification, when the verification continued after it was fixed, were you able to see the numbers on the screen?
Yes, we were able to see the numbers on the screen.
Good. So, for how long did the verification process continue?
I can't recall exactly how long, but I know that it was once again abruptly stopped.
When was this?
This was later into the evening, after we had decided, after we had requested a larger screen and screens, and everyone were comfortable, and the tabulation started. It was stopped not more than 2 hours after.
Stopped by whom?
By the chief election officer.
Where was he,
Was
when it was stopped?
He was in the tabulation room.
And what did he say to cause it to stop?
He announced that we are going to stop and we will return the following day. Again, the staff had to rest.
I didn't catch the last part of what
The staff needed to rest.
the staff needed to rest. Now, before he came and said that, did you hear any complaint from any GCOM staff in the tabulation room?
No, I did not.
When Mr. Lowenfield said that you were going to stop and the staff needed to rest, did you and your party say anything to him?
Yes. We said to him that we found it strange that they were going to stop the tabulation when we were now comfortable. Everyone seemed to be in order and the tabulation was moving smoothly. We were shocked.
And what was his response?
His staff needed to rest.
I see. So process stopped, did GCOM staff remain in that room?
GCOM staff remained in the room, and so did I.
And did Mr. Lowenfield say when you all were going to resume?
The following day.
Did you stay there or did you leave the building?
We left the building.
And did you return the following day?
We returned the following day,
At about what time?
9 o'clock.
And can you tell me what, if anything, occurred at that point?
No tabulation was being done at that time, and it was announced that Mr. Mingo was not feeling well.
Okay, so when you got to Ashman's building the next day, did you see Mr. Mingo
Yes, I saw him.
in the tabulation room?
He was in the tabulation room and up in the office on the foyers at the side.
I didn't get that last part.
He was up in the building inside on the second flat.
Well, you were on the ground floor.
Yeah.
How were you able to see him on the second
The
floor?
architecture of the building allow you to see upstairs.
I see. So you saw him in two places. You saw him in the tabulation room and upstairs.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you saw him, how did he appear to you?
Pretty well.
Apart from Mr. Mingo, did you see any other GCOM staff members there?
The Deputy Chief Election Officer, Mr. Roxanne Myers, was there, Miss Roxanne Myers, and we also saw the Chief Election Officer.
Where did you see the CEO and the DCEO?
The DCEO was in the tabulation room on the lower level, and the CEO was upstairs in the office on the second flat.
At about midday that day, did something happen?
Yes, we saw an ambulance arrive at the building, and we were alerted to that arrival by the sirens.
Okay. At that point, did you see the deputy CEO?
Yes, we saw her.
And
I did.
did she say anything?
Yes, she said that Mr. Mingo was not well.
And when she said this, where was she?
She was on the second floor at the time.
And where were you?
I was on the ground floor and she was shouting down.
She was shouting down.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And what became of Mr. Mingo?
I saw him being taken out of the building on a stretcher.
Now, after that, did any verification continue?
No verification continued.
Did you remain in Ashman's?
I remained at Ashman Building, and I was particularly concerned as to whether or not there would be a replacement for Mr. Mingo.
Can you now recall how long you waited there?
3 hours?
And did Mr. Mingo come back?
No, he did not return.
Was any replacement brought in for Mr. Mingo?
No replacement was brought in for him, and even though we had made suggestions that a returning officer from another district come over.
Now, did the CEO or the deputy CEO give any explanation to the party representatives as to why there were no replacements for Mr. Mingo?
No explanation was given, ma'am.
Were you and other party representatives given any explanation as to why the verification could not continue?
They said that we had to wait on Mr. Mingo, and I in particular, kept protesting as to why there was not a returning officer from another area that could have filled that post.
Well, did they tell you how long you were going to have to wait before verification resumed?
No, ma'am.
This is the day of the bombs check. Okay. Were you in the building around 6 p.m. on that day, Ashman's building?
Would that be on the 5th, the next day?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you see persons arriving at Ashman's building?
Yes,
Tell us what you saw.
on that day, on the 5th, we were told first that there was a bomb in the building.
Okay, so can you give us some more details about that? Was this about midday?
Yes, ma'am.
And who told you there was a bomb in the building?
It was told to us by Miss Roxanne Myers and other GCOM staff
And where did it tell you this?
in the tabulation room.
And having told you this, did they make any request of you?
It was requested that we leave the building.
Did anyone leave the building?
I did not leave, and so did my party representatives, and so did members of other political parties. We remained in the building.
After that, sorry.
Mr. Aaron, at the time that Ms. Roxanne Myers told you or announced that there was a bomb in the building, did anyone ask her how she came by that knowledge?
No, sir.
No. Did any police officer say to you or in your hearing that there was a bomb placed in the building?
Yes, sir.
Do you know the name of that police officer?
No, I don't know his name, but a police officer came in and said that there was a bomb in the building. In addition to that, the fire chief also came into the building and announced that we should leave. We should evacuate the building.
The fire chief made that announcement?
Yes.
Who was the fire chief at the time? Do you know his name?
Mr. Gentle?
Mr. Gentle.
Yes, sir.
The policeman who said that you and others should vacate the building, was this a constable, a uniformed officer, or what?
It was a uniform officer.
Not the constable.
Not a constable. You would have been in
Was he wearing a name tag?
Yes, but it was not visible to me.
Okay. So you are unaware of how anyone, police or GCOM or Ms. Myers, came by the knowledge that there was a bomb in the building?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you say that you basically received 3 requests to leave the building, GCOM, from the fire services chief, and from a uniformed officer. Could you explain to me why you did not comply with that request?
The first reason I did not comply with the request because we did not see GCOM representatives leaving the building.
Okay.
They remained in the building.
So let's go back to where we were. We were talking about 6 p.m. that evening, and you said you saw persons arriving at Ashman's. You were about to clarify who were those persons?
Those were members from the Guyana Police Force, in particular the Tactical Service Unit.
How did you identify them as being part of that unit?
By the way they were dressed,
Could you explain that a bit more for us?
they were dressed in khaki and not the regular police uniform, which is blue and black. They were dressed in all over khaki.
Okay. Were they armed?
They were armed with AK-47.
Did they come into the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, did you hear any GCOM member of staff request TSU officers to come to the building?
No, I did not.
what was going on in the building when the TSU officers entered?
There were no tabulation going on, and we were just sitting, waiting for the tabulation to restart.
Okay. So, when you say we, do you mean party representatives as well as observers?
Yes, ma'am.
And when the TSU officers came into the building, can you say where they went?
They stood in various locations of the building, and they started to ask us to leave the building.
And when you say they started to ask us, is it that they came individually to people and asked them, or were they issuing commands?
They were issuing commands.
And what were these commands that were being issued by TSU officers?
Kindly leave the building.
Did they say why they wanted you to leave the building?
No explanation were given.
Where was the CEO at this time? Do you know?
I did not see him.
Where was the deputy CEO? Do you know?
No, I did not see her.
Did anyone comply with these requests to leave the building?
Not at first.
Did anyone ask the TSU personnel why they wanted you to leave the building?
I did.
So you spoke to one of the officers
Yes.
and you asked him why he wanted you all to leave the building.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he reply?
Yes.
What did he say?
He's working by instructions.
Did he say from who? Did he say whose instructions?
No, ma'am.
Did you ask him whose instructions?
Yes.
And did he answer?
He said he's just working by instructions.
Now you said some people left. Were you one of the persons who left?
Yes, ma'am.
And after you left the building, did you attend a press conference together with other party agents?
Yes, I did.
And were you aware at this time that court proceedings had been begun?
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to the next day, which is the 6th of March 2020. Did you return to Ashman's building?
Yes, we returned to Ashman Building.
And did you go to the verification room, tabulation room?
Yes, we went to the tabulation room.
And again, when you got to that room, who was in that room?
They were GCOM officials, and they were members of my political party and members of other political parties there, and observers. Mind you, ma'am, it was set up in a different location.
I see. So where was the tabulation room now?
It was now set up to the back of the building.
Okay. And did you see Mr. Mingo there?
Yes, I saw Mr. Mingo.
And how did he appear at that point?
Very well. He was
And
fit.
were there other GCOM employees there?
There were GCOM employees there, and they were conducting the tabulation.
So the tabulation began.
It began.
Tell me, what was the process that was being used?
The process that was being used was the count was now being called from a spreadsheet and not the SOPs.
Who was in possession of the spreadsheet?
The clerk that was counting, that was presenting it to us. It was being presented on a spreadsheet on the screens.
Had you all, when I say you all, I mean party agents, had party agents before that the verification process began on that day? Had you been given copies of that spreadsheet?
No, we weren't.
Were you shown what was on that spreadsheet before the process began?
No, ma'am.
Did you inquire why, of any GCOM employee, why a spreadsheet was now being used?
We did.
Who did you ask questions of?
We asked questions of the Mr. Mingo and also of the other clerks that were presenting the information.
Did you receive a response to your inquiry from Mr. Mingo or any other member of GCOM staff?
In particularly Mr. Mingo,
What did Mr. Mingo say?
we should use our SOPs
Well, did
to
he,
verify.
Yes, well, did he explain the appearance and use of the spreadsheet at this point?
No, he did not.
Did he explain what the spreadsheet contained?
No, he did not.
Okay. So when the process began in this new part of Ashman's building, using this new process of this spreadsheet, tell us what occurred, what followed.
We began to protest. I began to protest along with my party members and other political parties that they were using a spreadsheet. And then subsequently, a court clerk came with a notice to stop the count, the verification.
How did you know that this was a court clerk?
He was dressed in uniform and he announced that he was from the court and he had a document to stop the count.
And did he give that document to anyone?
He was prevented from doing so
By whom?
by police officers there, and he could not get to Mr. Mingo to serve that. And the count continued.
I see. So what did the court clerk do? Did he remain there? Did he leave?
He remained and he kept trying to get to Mr. Mingo to serve the notice.
Well, did party agents do or say anything when you saw police officers trying to stop Mr. Mingo from being served with a court order?
We started to protest, and in particular, Mr. Anand Nandalal was there, and he said to the court representative, "You need to go and serve it to him."
And did the court clerk eventually get to Mr. Mingo?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did it take him to get to Mr. Mingo to hand him this document?
I would say between 20 minutes and half an hour, 20 to 30 minutes.
Did Mr. Mingo make any attempt during that period of time to reach out to the court clerk to accept the document or to invite the court clerk to come to him to receive the document?
No, ma'am. He just continued to count, to verify.
Did he acknowledge the presence? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, Mr. Aaron. About how far was the court-martial from Mr. Mingo, you would say? I know distances are always a tricky thing to estimate, but any idea how far he would have been from?
About 15 feet, 15 to 20 feet.
Yeah. Do you know whether Mr. Mingo saw him trying to approach him?
Yes, sir, he did.
How do you know, Mr.
Because he
Mingo?
was looking directly at the clerk.
Do you think he heard when the clerk said he has a document to serve?
Yes,
He was within hearing range in your view?
yes, sir.
Mr. Aaron, you said this person you're calling a clerk. Are you sure he was not a marshal from the court?
It's a marshal, sir.
Yeah, I was troubled by the use of the word clerk. Yes, you're correcting yourself now.
Yes, sir.
It was a marshal.
It was a marshal.
Yes. You're saying he experienced delay in serving an order of the court. That's what you thought it was,
Yes, sir.
on Mr. Mingo. And from what you were seeing unfolding there before you, that delay was caused by police officers who were preventing him from getting to Mr. Mingo?
Yes, sir.
You were seeing that?
Yes.
Aaron, When you said you saw the police preventing him, what exactly were the police officers doing to prevent him? They actually,
Every time he go to step forward, they were holding him back.
they were holding him back. Did you ever hear the marshal inform the police that he was a marshal of the court and he had a document to serve on Mr. Mengo?
Yes, sir.
He told him that,
Yes.
and you heard that.
Yes, I heard that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we had got to the point where you explained that after about 20 minutes, the marshal of the court was able to serve the document on Mr. Mingo.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what did Mr. Mingo then say, having received the document?
He stopped the verification. He said we would have to stop.
And did he say why?
He said because there was a court order ordering him to stop.
Did he give any indication at that stage as to when the verification would resume?
He did.
What did he say?
He said that it would resume at GCOM head office in High Street, Kingston, the afternoon at 4 o'clock, 4 or 5 o'clock, I can't remember clearly.
Sure.
And he specifically said that there would be large screens there that would help us to verify the count.
Just for the sake of clarity, at the Ashman's building, you said a spreadsheet was being used.
Yes, sir.
Was this spreadsheet being projected onto a screen, or were numbers being relayed from the, whatever it was, the spreadsheet, to the political party representatives?
It was being projected on a screen, a large television screen.
The spreadsheet was projected onto the screen.
Yes, sir.
But I'm sure that you said you didn't know what was on the spreadsheet. When now I'm gathering that you could have seen it.
Yes, we could have seen the spreadsheet.
I apologize, I might have missed that. So, what you were seeing on the spreadsheet in terms of votes, and I assume that's what it had, votes that were counted in favor of the various political parties.
Yes, sir.
Was that information on the spreadsheet consistent with your statements of poll?
No, they were not.
Thank you.
And following from the question just posed to you by the commissioner, when you recognize that there was a difference between numbers on the spreadsheet and your statements of polls, did you, sir, say or do anything?
Yes, we pointed that out to the chief election officer. To Mr. Mingo, as they were counting, as they were verifying.
So, what did you say to Mr. Mingo?
We said that the tabulations, these SOPs that we had were not corresponding with the numbers on the spreadsheet.
And what did Mr. Mingo say?
We should continue to use our spreadsheet, our SOPs, because the information on that spreadsheet came from their SOPs.
Did he say why the information had been put on a spreadsheet?
No, he did not.
Did you gather from Mr. Mingo's response that he was saying that you should continue to hold on to the statements of poll that you had, but that the information that you're seeing projected on the screen came from their statements of poll. Did you gather from that that he had a different set of statements of poll that were different from yours?
He would, yes, sir.
Okay. Well, if that was your understanding, did you query that?
We queried that with him.
That is, how could you have statements of poll that are different from ours? That
Yes.
was the basis of your query.
Correct.
And can you tell me, sir, what was Mr. Mingo's response?
That we should continue to use our SOPs because those numbers were from the SOPs that were in the possession of GCOM, Guyana Elections Commission.
And therefore, did you conclude that the SOPs that GCOM had were different from the SOPs that were handed to your political party?
Correct.
And can you tell us whether your experience with your statements of poll vis-a-vis the projected information on the screen, that the other political parties had statements of poll that matched the information on your statements of poll?
Yes, sir. But did not match those on the spreadsheet.
I see.
And if I can say,
Yes.
one of the requests, when we would have gone to the Kingston building, to my understanding, it was requested by the court that we do not use a spreadsheet, that GCOM should not use a spreadsheet, but they should use their statement of polls.
Yes. Was it pointed out? Well, you did say that it was drawn to Mr. Mingo's attention that the information on your statements of poll did not correspond with what he was projecting.
Correct.
And despite drawing that to Mr. Mingo's attention, he said to you, continue to hold on to your statements of poll.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Aaron, Mr. Mango said that your statement of poll, continue with your statement of poll, because, and we will continue to use the information on the spreadsheet is being taken from our statement of polls. Is that correct? That's
Correct,
what he
sir.
said to you? And the information that was on the spreadsheet was not consistent with your statement of polls.
That's correct.
But you're quite certain that he said that the information on the spreadsheet is taken from our statement of polls.
Correct.
Thank you.
And when he said our statements of polls, you understood him to mean GCOM's statements of polls.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, sir, the statements of polls received by your party, are they not what you refer to as carbon or original copies of the statements of polls from the polling stations?
Yes, ma'am.
And in fact, they are copies of the statements of the statement of poll which is pinned up outside each polling station, correct?
That's correct.
The statements of poll that you had carried signatures of presiding officers and political party agents at any particular polling station?
Yes, sir.
That's a requirement, is it?
It is a requirement.
And your statements of poll carried such signatures?
Yes, sir.
Right, so there is this dialogue about the use of a spreadsheet and reference to GCOM statements of polls and so on. After the discussions about that, what, if anything, occurred?
After the discussions about that, we were told to report to the GCOM office in Kingston, where the verification will continue.
And did you then go to the GCOM office at Kingston?
Yes, I did.
Is there a name for that building, or what is it called?
It's the GCOM head office, Guyana Elections Commission head office.
Around what time did you get there?
About 4:30.
And could you describe what you saw when you got there?
When we got there, there was an area that was designated for the count, and there was a piece of cardboard with a piece of cotton cloth thrown over it, which I thought was very inadequate.
Yes.
And there was issues and challenges getting the projector to focus on that piece of material.
So a projector was being used to show data on the cloth?
Yes, ma'am.
And by whom was the projector being used?
It was being used by the GCOM clerk under the instructions of Mr. Mingo.
Okay, you're dropping your voice a little bit.
Under the
there.
instructions of Mr. Mingo.
Sure.
We have a photograph. I cannot be used. I'm not directing you. I'm throwing out an idea whether he can say if that represents a true reflection of what we saw.
Certainly. And we have some other material to show, so I was thinking I would do that
Yeah.
towards the close of his testimony.
That's fine.
So, how far were you from this piece of cloth?
Less than 10 feet.
And what process was being used there? First of all, was Mr. Mingo there?
Mr. Mingo was present.
And apart from your party, were there other party representatives there?
Yes, there were other party representatives.
And what
there.
about observers? Did you see any observers?
Yes, there were observers there.
Okay, so very quickly, could you tell us what process took place there?
On this occasion, the spreadsheet was not being used. They were using SOPs.
When you say they, to whom do you
GCOM, the Guyana Elections Commission, they were using the statement of polls.
Okay, and is it that someone was calling a number?
Yes, they were calling from the statement of polls, and we inquire after we saw that the numbers were once again inconsistent with what we had. We asked to verify those SOPs that they had with ours. We wanted in particular to feel and touch the SOPs that they had because it came with specific markings that will allow us to know its authenticity.
And did they allow you to see the SOPs that they were calling from?
Yes, they were all photocopies.
They were all photocopies.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you able to say what they were photocopies of?
There were photocopies of the SOPs, original SOPs, I guess, but I'm not guessing, there were copies of the SOPs.
Okay.
Because we know they were copies because they did not bear the markings of the originals.
Now,
Mr. Aaron, if I may just, the SOPs were not being projected on this cloth.
It was being projected on the cloth.
It was being,
Yeah.
it was being projected. And you were able to see the inconsistency.
Yes, sir.
What was the response of Mr. Mengo when you pointed out the inconsistency?
He continued to represent that those were GCOM's statement of polls, and we should use ours to verify it.
But what did you understand that to mean?
I understand it to mean that these were statement of polls that were collected from the various polling stations by GCOM.
Shouldn't it have been that all of you had the same SOPs?
Yes, sir. But ours were original SOPs, while GCOM's SOPs were photocopies.
Yes, at this stage, what was being shown to you now, you said were photocopies.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Did you observe on the projected statements of poll, did you observe anything unusual about the figures on the state, apart from the fact that they appear to be different from the statements of poll that you had? About the figures themselves, was there anything unusual about them?
They were photocopies.
Sorry?
They were photocopies.
Yes, I understand that. You can't say what you are seeing on the screen was a photocopy. A statement of poll was projected. Do you know that what they were using to project was a photocopy?
No, sir.
Huh?
No.
No, you couldn't. I'm asking you about the figures. Is there anything unusual about the figures?
The figures were not consistent with our statement of polls. They were grossly off.
Okay. Let me be more specific with you. Was there, the figures were different. Did you see any evidence of alteration or any form of tampering with the figures?
Not on the screen, sir. No.
Sorry?
No, sir.
Thank you. Now, you said that when you were allowed to see the statements of polls which were being used by GCOM employees, you made the observation that they were photocopies.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, my understanding is a statement of poll is a document formatted in a certain way. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And the authentication and certification of the results for the districts are done at the polling stations, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is where the authenticating marks and signatures and so on are placed at the polling stations.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you said that you observed that the photocopies from which GCOM employees were calling bore no such marks.
Correct.
Did you inquire of the returning officer why he was not calling from a photocopy at least of an authenticated statement of poll?
Yes, we did.
And what did he have to say?
That is what they're calling from, and we should use our statement of polls.
Is it likely that the commission would be seeing that document, the document that he called, that came up on the screen, the photocopy statement of poll?
No.
That we will not be seeing that.
Not up till this time, because I think the witness who was called, who may have had access to that material, has explained what was the outcome of the seizures.
Okay, thank you.
Now, when they were calling the numbers, were you able to clearly see on the piece of cloth what was being projected?
We were not seeing clearly what was being projected. It was totally inadequate.
And did you bring this concern to anyone's attention from
Yes.
GCOM?
It was brought to the chief, Mr. Mingo's attention.
And what did he say when you brought that to his attention?
Nothing was said. He said that is what they're using, and their verification process continued.
Was the CEO or the deputy CEO there at all?
I did not notice that.
And at that point in time, so I forgot to ask you this, were you inside a building?
We were inside the compound on the shed. It was not inside the building.
Now, when the numbers were being called from these photocopies, were they being called in a manner which allowed you to do a proper comparison
Yes.
with other numbers?
Yes, ma'am.
But you were not able to see what the numbers were that were being put up on the screen.
Eventually, they expand. They stretched it up and down, and we were able to have a visible copy.
Okay. Now, you say that you objected to the use of photocopies and your party withdrew.
We did.
And was this at about 5 to 6 that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And when your party withdrew, it means you left where the verification was taking place with the photocopied documents.
We did.
And did you then speak to anyone?
We spoke to other party representatives who agreed with us.
No. Did you speak to the media?
Yes, I did.
And after that, where did you go?
After speaking to the media, I went home. I had to be escorted home
By whom?
by police officers
Was there a particular reason for that?
because I was being threatened by supporters outside of the GCOM building that I understand to be representatives of APNO AFC,
And what led you to that belief?
because they were chanting those parties' names.
Now, during the course of this experience over the days you have spoken about after the 2nd of March 2020 elections, did you videotape or did you video or film anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you just tell us what you took videos of?
I took videos particular of the count that was being done on the spreadsheet versus what we had in relations to the SOPs. And I took pictures of areas that I thought were being encroached on that had SOPs that could have been tampered with when the verification process were stopped on several occasions.
Okay. I forgot to ask you something. On any of those days after the 2nd of March 2020, were you at Ashman's building when there was an attempt to make a declaration by anyone?
Yes, there was an attempt to make a declaration. I was there
By whom?
by Mr. Keith Lowenfield, the chief election officer.
Where? Where was he?
He was up on the second flat,
Second floor.
the second floor.
Yes, and was anyone with him?
Yeah, there was the RO, Mr. Mingo, and Miss Myers.
And where were you at that time?
I was on the ground floor by the escalator, which permit me a view to the second floor.
But were you in a position to hear what was being said on the second floor?
Yes.
Well, what, if anything, did you hear Mr. Lowenfield say?
He said that they was about to announce the results, and then after that, I did not hear anything else because the Ashman building, there was an uproar.
Okay. Now, at this point in time, had the verification process for District 4 been completed?
No, it was not.
And after the uproar, what became of Mr. Lowenfield and the other two GCOM employees? Did they remain there?
No, they went back into the office.
And during the period of time that you were at Ashman's building, did you see the chairperson of GCOM?
Yes, I did.
Where did you see her?
I saw her came into the building and she went up to the second flat, the second floor.
And Did your party have any interaction with her at all?
No, we did not.
Now, there are GCOM commissioners. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know at the time who they were?
Yes.
And during the period of time after the 2nd of March 2020, did you see any of those commissioners at Ashman's building?
Yes, I did.
Can you now recall who were the commissioners you saw?
I saw Mr. Sesnarine, Gun Ranch, from the PPP. I saw Mr. Can't recall his name right now.
Okay, if you can't recall, it's not
From
a
the
problem.
but I saw two representatives from APNU AFC, and I know I saw Mr. Ses.
So you saw two APNU AFC commissioners and
Yeah.
you saw two PPPC commissioners?
Yeah, one in
okay,
particular.
sure. And did you see them at the same time? Were they all together?
No,
Well, where were you when you saw them?
I was I was on the ground floor in the Ashman's building, and they would frequent the building. They would come in and come out of the building.
So you would see them off and on as they were coming in and out of the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, when all these problems arose, did you speak to any of these commissioners?
Yes, we spoke with I particularly spoke with one commissioner. I don't know, his name is beating me right now. And I asked him if the count was going to continue. And this was just prior to the announcement of the attempt of the announcement of the results.
Right.
And he did say, yes, the count is going to continue. They just have to straighten out some administrative issues.
Okay. So how long after the commissioner spoke to you did you see and hear Mr. Lowenfield trying to make this declaration of results?
It was less than 20 minutes.
And where was the commissioner when he spoke to you?
I am not too sure where he was at the time
No,
of the
where
announcement.
were you speaking to him? In
I was speaking
person?
to him on the ground floor.
Okay, sure. Sure. And do you know where he was when Mr. Lowenfield attempted to make this declaration?
No, I don't. I don't know where he went.
Now, sir, let's get back to the videos you said.
Well, the commissioner name is Mr. Alexander. Sorry, I know.
Mr. Alexander.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Mr. Aaron, how many floors were there at the Ashman's building?
There's a ground floor, and then there's a second flat.
2 floors.
Yes, sir.
What period, you visited every day for the verification process at Ashman's?
Yes, sir.
So you were there from what date to what date?
So there from the evening of the 2nd to the 6th.
You were there every day from the 2nd of March. From the 2nd of March?
Yes,
What was the polling day? What was the date of the election?
the 2nd.
Sorry?
The 2nd.
So you were there from the 2nd,
Yes, the evening.
the evening of the 2nd to the 6th.
Yes.
You told us earlier of stoppages in the counting process. Can you help us with the number of stoppages that you experienced there in that process?
During the period,
2nd to 6th.
the 6th.
There was none on the 2nd.
Yeah.
You had a stoppage on the 2nd?
No, we had a stoppage on the 3rd, which
the
was because we had gone over 12 o'clock, which was like about 2 o'clock.
One stoppage.
Right.
Sorry?
Yes, sir.
So on the 3rd, there was one stoppage, and then the count will start and resumed the next day.
Correct.
So that would be the 4th.
Right, correct.
How many stoppages were there on the 4th? If you can remember. You can work it out on your fingers if you
Yeah, I can't remember all the stoppage that there was because, of course, there are times that I would leave to get something to eat and to shower and probably a nap. But I would have to work that out. I would have to sit and I would have to decipher that.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
I'm asking that the witness be shown what has been admitted as LS1B, please. So I want you to look at that. Can you say anything about what you see on the screen?
That is the display screen that was used at the High Street GCOM head office, Guyana Elections Commission head office, after the court order was passed for the SOPs to be projected instead of the spreadsheet.
For the SOPs to be used
instead of the spreadsheet.
Yes. Thank you. Now, you said that you had filmed certain things. What did you use to film those things?
My cell phone.
And you have provided that information to us?
Yes, ma'am.
And if you see that information that you filmed or the data that you filmed, will you be able to identify it and explain it to us?
Yes, I would.
I'm asking that certain material be placed on the screen.
NU plus AFC 106, CG 2, LJP 1, PPPC 96, PRP 0, TCI 0, TNM 1, URP 0, 207.
4076. APNU 50.
4076. Anna 1. APNU plus AFC 80.
80. So they added on 30 votes.
LJP
Between the 50
0.
and
PPPC 164. PRP 0. TCI 0.
Gentleman in blue?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told us that the numbers were popping up on the screen. Can we see that from the video?
Yes, that's the television screen that it was being projected on.
Okay.
The spreadsheet.
Right. Okay. So, can we continue?
1. URP 0. 2, 4, 8.
Let's see what Mr. Mingo has to say.
And we can just serve the next application.
Right? That's on the upper floor. Are those police officers that we are seeing there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Could you continue?
PNU plus AFC.
Confirm that these two videos were in fact filmed by you
Yes, ma'am.
during the period of immediately after the March 2nd, 2020 Guyana general election.
Yes, they were.
I'm asking that this key be admitted and marked as RA1A. RA1A.
Yes.
Okay. The key, the commission chairman has to mark it. Yes. May I respectfully ask the commissioners to take a 15-minute break? It has to be properly loaded up, and we have to place something that you can write on the key.
Is that, can I ask a question before we?
Yes.
I just had one question from Mr. Aaron. You say that when the tabulation continued under the shed at GCOM headquarters, that Mr. Mingo appeared to be using photocopies of statements of polls.
That's correct.
What made you think it was photocopies? Forgive me if you've answered that already.
We asked to see them.
And you were shown it?
Yes.
And what did you observe that made you think it was photocopies?
We observed that they were not on the same quality of paper that our original or copies of our SOPs were, because we would not have the original one. That would be the top one that would be sent to GCOM. We would have layers of copies of the original, which bore specific marks.
So other than the quality, the difference in the quality of the paper, did you observe anything else?
We observed that when we took it and we raised it up, there were some elements, some birds and the maps that's supposed to be shown when it's turned to the light, that it wasn't there.
Anything else?
No.
All the various signatures and so on were there.
I did not recognize any signature.
Now, when you say you did not recognize, do you mean there were no signatures there?
I did not see them. I did not look for them.
You did not look for
I
them?
did not look for signature.
Yes, we'll take the break.